The man in the gray is a strategy around how to create the life you want with the most amount of leverage.
Welcome to the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast, the ultimate destination for accredited investors and entrepreneurs seeking alternative wealth building strategies. Discover how to fast-track your journey to wealth and time freedom by thinking outside the box. If you're ready to join the ranks of the Contrarian Capitalists and learn the most effective ways to reach your financial goals faster, you're in the right place. Let's get started with today's episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast.
Thank you once again for joining another episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast. It's me, your favorite silverback, Sylvania Harrod, and on today's episode, I'm going to give you guys some insights on this concept that I fundamentally understand and I fundamentally love because it's an embodiment of who I am. It's called the gray man. And so the man in the gray, as I described in previous episodes, is one of the most powerful people on the planet. And so the beautiful thing about it is that, I once had a mentee who was asking me, don't you want to be the king? And I go, hell no, I don't want to be the king. Why? Do you know how much responsibility it comes with being the king? You know, how many people are in your kingdom? How many different people do you have to focus on? How many different challenges are you going to be able to be there? You know who I would much rather be? I would much rather be the person who's friends with a king and be friends with multiple kings, because then I can move to any kingdom in any process and get things done whenever I need to, if and so I choose to have that. And so, when you think about the man in the gray doesn't operate in the black, doesn't operate in the white. And if you're a contrarian, I'm guessing there's a little question you're asking yourself right now is who the hell is this man in the gray and how can I find examples of this? And so back a couple months ago, I began watching the show Billions. And so Billions is a show that documents a hedge fund manager who is the protagonist of the show. And it also talks about the antagonist, which is this guy by the name of Chuck Rhodes, who is a U.S. district attorney who is just he wants to see all these people that make lots of money be able to pay and be able to go. It's fiction, y'all. Reality, that stuff isn't really going to happen that way. But it's beautiful to have fiction to be able to do. So the protagonist is Bobby Axelrod. He's a hedge fund manager. Started from the bottom, made his way up, made his money, became a billionaire. And you understand kind of the nuances that happens through that life. So in one of the episodes, Chuck Rhodes is looking to go ahead and get blessed to run for a certain office. And he comes across a gentleman by the name of Blackjack, because he holds the hands of the kings and queens. So this character, Blackjack, is the one who has a lot of influence when it comes to who's going to be the next governor, who's going to be the next district attorney, the state attorney general. He has all these kind of things. And so they come to this party, they go through different moments, and it just made me realize, damn, that is 1,000% true. Because if we look at large companies and large things to be able to be there, we always hear about the Elon Musk of the world, the Steve Jobs, all these visionary thinkers to be able to be there. But I'm here, as I always do, and tell you guys the truth. Steve Jobs cannot become Steve Jobs without the man in the gray. Because at the end of the day, all companies need capital. They need operating capital. They need growth capital. They need startup capital. They need seed capital. There's so many different elements of capital to be able to be there that all these gentlemen need. And so because they need that, they need a man in the gray. And so the man in the gray concept I started around special operators in my early career when I was in the Army as a mental health guy. And they told me how they select the prime candidates. The man in the white is a gentleman who is all-star athlete, great shooter, great being on duty. He's a tactician in a space to be able to be there, but it's probably a dick, super arrogant, not a really good leader, cannot comprehend, has no empathy because he cannot comprehend how other people can do things because things come so naturally to him. The man in the black is an individual who has great leadership skills, great communication. He just doesn't have the physical gifts. So like, because he wasn't given those physical gifts and physical capacity, they end up becoming exceptional support personnel for the man in the gray. The man in the gray is the individual who can blend both worlds. He may not be the best athlete, but he'll be towards top of the pack, maybe middle of the road. But where he exceeds is his empathy, his communication skills, and his leadership skills. People just navigate and gravitate around that person, and they want to go do that. Those make the best special operators. And special operations is all about executing in the gray for our U.S. soldiers, especially like special forces. Special forces is about how can I go into a country and not just use like pure might and grit to be able to knock down doors. It's the regular infantry folks. They're about influence. They're about going in, and you can take an A team of 12 guys into a country, give them 6 months, and they're going to be running the country because of this gray man concept. So that whole concept exists everywhere in life. But for you, how does this apply to you? How can you be able to use this in everyday life? I want you to realize that in order to start working in alternatives, you have to understand the narrative behind the actual narrative. So let's look at this. We all hear about real estate, and we all hear about how wealthy is going to be able to make it in real estate. I'm a millionaire operating in real estate and being able to be there. But what you don't know is there's different components and different tiers of real estate. For some of you that are listening to this, you need to be in operations. You just like to control things, and you are just maniacal at controlling things. Good. Perfect. Be in operations. Be in the day by day of managing contractors, making sure they show up, making sure they deliver results, and be in that process. For some of us, we don't want somebody calling us at 10 o'clock at night being like, okay, this thing is broken and is there an issue to be able to go there? For me, I was not that guy. If you call me and say, hey, there's a flood, I'm like, call the damn plumber. Why are you calling me? You're an adult, call a plumber. Send me the invoice when it's done. Is there any kind of problems to be able to be there? And then to get myself even more removed, what I realized is there's a third person, because you got the project manager who's like one of the sponsors. They're like, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to make sure things happen to be there. You have the general contractor who's managing the fix and flip and going through that process to be able to be there. There's two people. But there's a third person. It's the capital guy. The capital guy's primary mission is to do what? Supply or find the necessary capital you need to secure that building. So in most situations in real estate, just get a little tactical for you, it is structured in like, you're going to hear split numbers. So you hear things like 90-10, 80-20, 70-30. What that means is how much debt versus how much of like liquid capital you need to be able to bring to the table. So most private money lenders will be like, hey, I'll do 100 on the actual like construction process, but to secure the house, I'm going to do 90-10 or 80-20. So that means that on a $100,000 home, you need to have $20,000 of liquid capital in order to have it ready to deploy. Well, you have a couple options. For that $20,000 you need to secure, you can either use your own money, or if you listen to other episodes, you learn about other people's money. So let's just say in exchange for that, the person says, I'm willing to give you 50% of the equity and proceeds that need to be there. You have an option. You could either be 50%, there's a 50% pool that's available. You could be like, all right, cool, I'm going to be there. And so maybe you can maintain that position. So you can say, all right, cool, for exchange, because only thing that operator is looking for you to do is when they ask for the money, you have it there ready to go. So if it's me, what I do is I go out and I find other people that want to be a part of the project. I figure out what the terms are of where things need to be. So maybe they need to be in a place where they're, guess what? I want a piece of the pie too. I want a piece of the earnings. Or the person just wants to be on the debt side. Like So I want to break it down. There's debt and there's equity. Equity is ownership inside of the asset. Debt is just what it is. It's just like, okay, cool. I'm going to give you this money. You're going to give me this return. That's in the category of private credit. So if I'm on the debt and equity side, so I'm like, all right, cool. What side do I want to be on? By the way, you can be on both. It just depends. But just for this purpose of example, I'm going to be on the debt side. So I'm going to find people that want to be on the debt side because I got to figure out if we want to give up any equity over here. Because if we're giving up equity, typically you're in the deal. You're not getting any return on your money. So if I find somebody at 20 grand who says, all right, cool, I'll let you hold it for 6 months. In exchange for that 6 months, I expect you to turn around and hand me 22 grand in 6 months. You made good on my money. I earned 2 grand and all I have to do is give it to you. You go through the process, be able to be there. So me being who I am, guess what I do? I negotiated. And guess what happens? I get a piece of the equity, but I am not tied to any of the responsibility. I'm an uncle. Have the kids, be able to be there. You need to go away for the weekend, have all things to be there. But man, that kid get the flu, hand them right back to their parents. Here you go. I'm not here for this. When the kid's getting bad grades in school, I'm their favorite person. In the NFL, we call that the backup quarterback. Everybody loves the backup, because they don't expect much out of you. Same thing as being an uncle. This is what being the man in the gray is about. You're able to get the necessary rewards of the process because if you're depending on what's you, right? So now this is how I built all of my real estate. Just giving you guys game without taking any money out of my pocket because I knew how to connect people. And so when I look at this process, I say, oh my God, there's so many opportunities. Why do you think I'm building you a newsletter? Because the reality is that you may just want to be on the side where you want to be on the debt side. That's all you want to do. You want to be there because guess what? You're great at your job. You're great at your business. You're great at doing those things. Keep your time focused on the things that you really want to do. And then you utilize the other side to actually go and make things possible. So prime example, when I was working like day by day, people ask me like, how are you working on deals and be able to make this happen? And what I realized is that there's different leverage points. So for me, I knew that like, if I'm stuck on calls, it don't take me nothing to send an email because most of the call, it may not be related to me. Or if I'm sitting in meetings or things to be able to be there, like as I pop out and I'm sitting in traffic or doing anything else, I can make a phone call. And so I start looking at different leverage points of what I can be good at. And in some situations, I just took my own money and said, hey, cool, I'm going to be on the debt and equity side and need that there. And so I've been able to build and retire early because of that process. Now, what I retired from is working for anybody else. Retirement is a state of mind. Because let's be real. Why do we look at retirement? Retirement is the concept that I'm going to work hard enough and save up enough money that I can be able to live off of that when I want to do the thing that I actually want to do. That's all retirement is. So guess what I did? I said, all right, cool. I made enough money to be able to secure myself so that I can have the opportunity to do the thing that I want to do, which is this same concept. The only difference is I didn't retire at 30, like at 70 years old, it was 38. Yeah. Pretty cool, right? Look at that. You go and you're like, oh, cool. That process to be there. It's my second retirement. Medic that retired from the military. So now I'm doing the things that I really want to do because I knew that I was ready for the next evolution of what I wanted to accomplish. And unfortunate, we're all bound by this one thing. It's called time. So I could burn the camel on both ends, but there's a group of people that are sitting behind me in pictures that I know my time is limited with them. Because if you look at the time spent equation for children, the window is tied to their first 18, 19 years of life is when I'm going to get 80 to 85% of the time I'm going to spend with them is during those period of times. Because once they're released into the wild, they're out doing whatever they need to do. Hopefully I built enough of a relationship with them that they want to be close back to the nest. But should they spread their wings and be like, no, I'm on the other side of the country, more power to them. But during these time, I said, okay, cool. I don't want to be burning both candles on both ends. This is the power of choice. I can choose what I want to do. Isn't that the base of what retirement is? You can choose, be like, all right, cool. I want to be a substitute teacher for a couple months. Why? To be able to do that. I want to go work at the shelter. For me, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, oh, I can go build companies and advise companies. Because guess what? My time is still protected. The time I want to spend is doing the things I want to do. So right now, I'm basically getting a doctorate in finance. Why? Because I'm spending time with people who spent 20, 30 plus years working in it. And I'm still on the job training because I want to learn more about it. It's a new excitement. 10 years from now, I can change. Maybe I become a veterinarian. I don't know, guys. That's the cute thing about freedom in your youth. You get the opportunity to go do the things you want. So how do all of this work with being the man in the gray? The man in the gray is a strategy around how to create the life you want with the most amount of leverage. Because maybe your desire is like, I really, really love teaching, but I want to be in a space where I may want to take more vacations. I may want to live in this neighborhood. I may want to drive this car. I may want to take these vacations for my family. But there's only so much leverage I have into my current job. So because I need to look outside of my job for opportunities, that's what we look for, investment opportunities. And that becomes the reality. And that's what I'm teaching you. You can go through and you can find the different leverage points. Because what I'm going to tell you, operations stink, y'all. There is always beauty and ashes in any element that happens to be there. And I'm here to tell you both sides. If you want to own a large real estate portfolio and you want to be managing it and handling all the contractors to be able to do that, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be burning the candle on both ends. Or you can become on the debt side or part of the equity side, or maybe all above, depending on what you really want. And so my responsibility is to be able to find high quality operators for you that I introduce you to make all that happen. And this is the beautiful thing about what you're able to do. So just remember, the man in the gray is the most powerful place you can be, because now you get the returns without having to give up your time. And that's the key thing that I would tell you to be able to focus on, because that's the reality of my life. That's how I was able to do it at such a young age and be at that space. So as always, you can find me on all social media channels at my first name and my last name. If you have the questions or different moments and you want me to learn more, comment on whatever platform you happen to use. And I'm here to support you and be able to respond, because this topic came from a message that was sent to me. And a person was like, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? I said, man, I'm going in the gray. Be on the capital side, because what you realize is opportunities are everywhere. But once you have the right network of things, or you have just dry powder to put it into it, go for it, my friends. So I appreciate every person that listens to this episode. I'm here for you. Cheers.